What if everything you believed in, every "I love you," every smile, every kiss, turned out to be a lie? 8 years together. Love, trust, a family. That's what Nolan thought they had, until one accidental discovery shattered his entire world into pieces. A red lace bra hidden in his wife's car, a name in her phone he had never taken seriously, and a truth he could no longer escape. Betrayal breaks you, but what comes after might shock you even more. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watch this video from. Now, let's get started. I always thought Abigail and I had built something solid, a marriage that could weather anything. We had spent 8 years together, 4 of those as husband and wife. Sure, we weren't perfect, but who is? Our life was a collection of shared experiences, stitched together by quiet, intimate moments. Last-minute weekend trips, lazy Friday evenings curled up with movies, and early Sunday mornings spent hunting for the best coffee. She wasn't just my spouse. She was my best friend, the person I trusted most. Her relentless drive in her career always left me in awe. She never stopped pushing forward, and I admired that about her. Never once did I feel threatened by her ambition. If anything, it made me proud. But now, when I retrace those years, I see signs I ignored. Small shifts in her demeanor. Things that didn't seem important at the time. As her career soared, the life we had built slowly began to fracture. In the beginning, I saw it as a natural result of her success, and I was genuinely happy for her. I'll never forget the night she came home, radiant with joy. "Nolan, I got promoted today," she said, her face lit up with excitement. I hugged her tightly and whispered, "I knew you would. You deserve it." But before long, those promotions meant longer nights at the office, sudden trips out of town, and missed dinners. One evening, while she was getting ready for yet another corporate event, I sat quietly at the kitchen table, watching her from across the room. "Hey, are you okay?" I asked softly. "You've been working non-stop lately." She glanced over her shoulder, flashing a quick smile, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "It's just a huge project," she said, brushing it off. "Nothing you need to worry about." Still, as weeks passed, I noticed things I couldn't unsee. The way she would glance at her phone when a message came through, sometimes smirking at the screen. The way her voice tightened when I asked simple questions. Then came the day that tore my world apart. A Saturday that began like any other, until it wasn't. Abigail had gone out to pick up groceries, something we took turns doing. I remember hearing her car door slam and the rustling of paper bags as she walked up the driveway. I headed to the door to greet her, as usual. She was juggling 3 heavy bags, so I quickly stepped in to help. "Let me grab some of those," I offered, reaching for a couple. "Thanks," she replied, smiling, the same smile that used to make my heart race. For a brief moment, I let myself believe that everything was fine, that she was simply overwhelmed with work. But when I went back to her car to retrieve the last bag, something caught my eye. A flash of red tucked beneath the back seat, lace, delicate and unfamiliar. My brow furrowed as I reached down and picked it up, a red lace bra, one I had never seen before. My chest tightened, and my hands felt cold. I walked back toward the house, holding it as if it were something dangerous. "Abigail." "What is this?" I asked quietly, showing her the bra. She froze for just a heartbeat before responding, her eyes darting away from mine. "Oh, that?" she said quickly, too casually. "It's nothing. I was going to get it repaired." Her words felt hollow, rehearsed, and she still wouldn't meet my gaze. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. But something inside me knew better. That night, I lay wide awake in bed, pretending to sleep. Beside me, Abigail breathed softly, oblivious. When I was sure she was asleep, I carefully slid out from under the covers, my heart pounding in my chest like a drumbeat. Her phone sat on the nightstand, as always. Until that night, I had never so much as glanced at it. But after what I had found, all trust had shattered. With trembling fingers, I picked it up and stepped into the living room. I hesitated for a moment before typing in her passcode, her birthday. The screen unlocked instantly, as though inviting me to look. As I scrolled through her messages, a knot tightened in my stomach. Then I saw his name, Sylvester. Work project. She had mentioned him before, casually, in passing. But something about the way his name sat there, waiting, made my heart slam against my ribs. With a deep breath, I opened the conversation. What I read made my world collapse. These weren't innocent chats between coworkers. They were dripping with intimacy. And then, the photos. Explicit pictures of them together, in what was clearly a hotel room. My hands shook as I swiped through image after image. Videos, too. Cryptically labeled clips I couldn't bear to watch all the way through. But I didn't need to. The truth was obvious. Everything I had pushed away, all the doubts I refused to entertain, were now undeniable. What hurt most were the casual, affectionate texts between them, lines that cut deeper than any knife. "Wish you were here with me," Sylvester had written me too. "Soon, I hope." "I hate going home sometimes," she replied. "It feels so empty," Abigail wrote. And then, as if to twist the knife, "Next time, let's book extra nights, just for us." "Deal," he answered, followed by, "Can't wait to see you in that new lingerie." Her response? "I'm wearing it now. That red lace bra, his gift to her. The same one I had found." The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. I could barely breathe. Tears blurred my vision, but I forced them back, unwilling to let them fall. I sat there on the couch, clutching her phone, reading every word, staring at every picture. She hadn't just lied to me. She had created a whole other world, right alongside the one we shared. And the worst part? Based on some of their conversations, Sylvester was married too. It was like a second betrayal, knowing she wasn't only destroying our marriage, but helping to ruin someone else's life as well. I clenched my jaw, swallowing the storm of emotions rising in my chest. I knew I couldn't let anger make my decisions for me. Not yet. Taking a deep, steadying breath, I began forwarding every single message, picture, and video to my own phone. I needed to gather it all, every shred of truth, before figuring out what to do next. I kept everything, every message, every picture, every clip. I made sure I had proof. Then, with meticulous care, I went through her phone and deleted every trace of our exchanges. Every clue of what I had uncovered, gone, as if it never existed. She would never suspect that I had unearthed the truth. She wouldn't know that I had seen everything. Placing her phone exactly where I had found it, I lay back on the bed, staring at the darkened ceiling, my mind swarming with images of Abigail and Sylvester. The sting of betrayal was suffocating, and I knew, with bitter certainty, that nothing would ever be the same again. After seeing what I saw, my path was clear. Silently, I gathered only what I needed: a fresh set of clothes, my wallet, and a few personal items that held meaning. While Abigail slept peacefully, clueless, I slipped out of the house we once called home. I didn't leave a note. No accusations, no angry parting words, just a quiet, final decision. I couldn't remain in a life founded on deceit. That night, I checked into a small hotel, but sleep was impossible. I sat there, lost in thought, eyes fixed on the empty walls, the weight of everything crashing down on me. Still, beneath the numbness, I knew exactly what had to happen next. By morning, I had made up my mind. Without hesitation, I called an attorney. I laid it all out for them: the evidence, the betrayal, every gut-wrenching detail. I didn't waver. There wasn't a shred of me left that wanted to salvage what had been shattered. I wasn't interested in fighting over money or property. None of that meant anything anymore. I just wanted to be free. By the afternoon, the initial divorce papers were drafted, and I signed them without a moment's pause. Later that day, while Abigail was still at work, I went back to gather the remainder of my belongings, whatever fragments of my life were still left there. Before leaving, I placed a large envelope on the kitchen counter. Inside were the divorce documents, along with a short note that spoke the only truth left to say, "You made your choice. Now here's mine." I stood there for a moment, taking in the house we had built, walls now filled with memories I could no longer bear to hold on to. And then I turned and walked away, not once looking back. For the first time in what felt like forever, I could breathe again. That same day, I called Nicholas, my closest friend. We met at a quiet cafe, far from anything that might remind me of her. Over coffee, I finally let the words out. I had to walk away, Nicholas. I couldn't live in denial anymore. He looked me in the eye, his expression filled with empathy. "You did what you had to do, Nolan. You deserve better than that." We sat there for a long time, talking through everything that had happened and what my next steps might be. When we finally finished our coffee, I thanked him and returned to my hotel room. The pain was still there, heavy as ever, but for the first time, it felt a little less suffocating. That night, my phone wouldn't stop lighting up, call after call from Abigail. I didn't answer any of them. I didn't need to hear her excuses, her tears, or her desperate attempts to twist the truth. She had made her choice long before I discovered it. Now, she would live with the consequences. As her name kept flashing across my screen, I made a decision that would change everything. I gathered all the evidence, every screenshot, every video, and sent it to her parents. No explanations, no dramatic speech, just the truth, laid bare. Along with the files, I wrote a simple message. This is why I'm leaving her. They had a right to know. They deserved to understand why their daughter's marriage was ending so abruptly, and I wasn't finished. Next, I turned my focus to Sylvester's wife. It didn't take much effort. A few searches online, some mutual connections, and there she was, Scarlett. She looked so happy in her photos, completely unaware of the betrayal unfolding behind her back, just as I had been. She deserved the truth too. I sent her everything, the photos, the texts, the videos, and then I waited. Her reply came quickly. The first message was just 3 words, "Who are you?" I explained, told her I was Abigail's husband, or at least I had been until that day. I told her she had a right to know what was happening behind her back. Her next message was much longer, filled with disbelief, pain, and anger. Every word she wrote echoed the same emotions I had been drowning in. The shock of realizing the life you trusted had been a lie. She thanked me, and she told me she was leaving him. Sitting there, holding my phone, I took a deep breath. Abigail's betrayal hadn't just destroyed my world, it had torn hers apart too. But I felt no guilt. They had chosen this path. Now they would face what they had sown. A few days later, I found a small apartment on the other side of town, a place to begin again. Each morning, I forced myself out for a run, letting the crisp morning air clear my head. I picked up new hobbies, visited the local community center to meet new people. Piece by piece, I was building a new life out of the wreckage. I buried myself in work, pouring my energy into it. I even signed up for night classes, determined to grow beyond the man I had been. Every day, I took another step away from the ruins of my old life. Slowly, I was finding my way back to myself. I won't pretend it was easy. There were nights when loneliness crept in like a shadow, nights when I longed for the life I thought I had, the comfort of it, the routine. Nights when my apartment felt unbearably silent. But then I would remind myself, staying in a life built on betrayal would have been far worse than facing the emptiness of starting over. As painful as it was, I came to realize that sometimes the hardest choices lead to the most important beginnings. I was learning to trust myself again. to value my own worth above all the lies I had been fed. As weeks turned into months, the memories of Abigail and our life together began to soften. They didn't vanish, and I never tried to erase them, but I accepted them as part of my past, part of the road that brought me to where I was. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I was finally looking ahead, toward a life I would create on my own terms. The divorce was settled quietly, without any real fight. Abigail kept the house, but I didn't care. I had no interest in clinging to a place that only served as a painful reminder of broken promises and shattered trust. All I wanted was to leave that chapter of my life behind for good. Over time, through mutual friends, word of her life after me inevitably made its way back. It wasn't long after our marriage fell apart that she and Sylvester went public with their relationship. I wasn't surprised, not in the slightest. After all, their affair had been brewing while I was still blind to it, so it made sense they'd try to legitimize what they had. But as I'd quietly expected, it didn't last. Just a few months later, I heard that Abigail had betrayed Sylvester as well. Sylvester had convinced himself he was different, that he would somehow be immune to the same disloyalty that had ended us. But in the end, he faced the same hard truth I had. If someone is willing to cheat with you, they will eventually cheat on you. A full year had slipped by since I had walked away from that mess. Life had finally found its rhythm again, calm, steady, and whole. Then, on a cold evening I hadn't expected anything from, there came a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone, so when I opened it, seeing Abigail standing there hit me like a wave. She seemed smaller than I remembered, as if life had worn her down. Her eyes stayed glued to the ground, and when she finally looked up, I saw something in her that hadn't been there before. "Nolan, I've been looking everywhere for you," she said, her voice trembling with something that sounded like regret. "Abigail," I greeted, my voice calm but detached. I stepped aside to let her in, though inside I kept my walls up. She lingered at the doorway, caught in some invisible struggle, before she finally spoke. "I've made a huge mistake," she whispered, barely able to say the words aloud. "Don't," I interrupted, my tone soft but resolute. "I'm not here to hear apologies." For a long moment, silence wrapped around us, heavy and suffocating. In her eyes, I could see a deep sadness, a raw vulnerability I had never seen from her before. The woman who once carried herself with certainty now looked completely lost. "I've destroyed everything because of what I did," she said quietly, almost like she was confessing to herself more than to me. "I thought I could have it all. But now, I don't even know who I am anymore." Leaning back against the doorframe, I folded my arms, letting her words hang in the stillness. My mind drifted to all the choices that had brought me here, to a life that no longer revolved around her. "I can't let this back into my life," I replied gently, but with unwavering firmness. "I've built something stronger, something that reminds me of my worth, and I won't give that up, not for anyone." Her eyes filled with tears as she took a small, tentative step toward me, her whole body trembling like she might fall apart. "Please, Nolan," she pleaded, her voice cracking. "Just talk to me. I need to understand how it all fell apart." But I shook my head, steady in my resolve. "I don't need answers from you anymore, Abigail. I made my decision the day I walked away. I chose a life without lies." The weight of her sorrow seemed to press in on the room, thick and unrelenting. And in that moment, it was clear to me, no amount of regret could undo what had been done, and the life I had rebuilt had no space left for her sadness. When she finally turned and walked out into the night, I closed the door behind her with a quiet finality. My closure had come long before she appeared at my door, and her return only served to remind me of why I had never looked back. This story has come to an end. People are often afraid to face the truth because they fear losing the life they're used to. But the truth, no matter how painful, sets you free. Betrayal is not the end. It's the beginning of the journey back to yourself. When a relationship falls apart, it's important to remember, you don't have to stay where you're being betrayed. You deserve love, honesty, and respect. Let this story be a reminder to everyone. Love yourself enough to walk away from those who don't value you. Sometimes losing someone is the only way to truly find yourself. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.